So I ended up buying a lot of new bras because they were on crazy sale, and I inadvertently bought what was my old size, which is a 32 band instead of a 34 band, but they fit, so that's nice. Even though I haven't lost a lot of weight, obviously something has happened. This little guy has been coming to work with me off and on for the past couple of weeks because he has an eye injury that requires me to not be able to leave him alone, really, because I have to give him eye drops every 2 hours, and I have for a month, which is, throwing a wrench into being able to exercise during lunch and all of that. But it's worth it to save his eyeball. It looked like he was going to lose it, but I think we've gotten past the place where it's a danger that he's going to lose it now. It's just continuing to be annoying. So I'm gonna try to do an actual update later today when I do go to lunch, because I haven't been very good at doing updates other than weighing myself, and that gets boring after a while. I know, because I just edited 3 months worth of video, and oh my god, snooze fest. So I'm going to try to be a little bit better about talking about what I'm going through, starting with the fact that I'm a week into the mini-noom program right now, just trying it out to see if it's working. I will let you know about that when I go to lunch. I'm having to pull my dog into the door right now. Jesus. So I said I would talk a little bit about Noom, because I've been doing it for a week and a half now. I don't know how I feel about it a week and a half in. I decided to sign up for it because I thought it would be a good idea for me, because one of the main selling points of it is that it attacks the psychological things that are keeping you overeating and such. And that's where a lot of my overeating comes from. I'm a very big comfort eater, but I don't know. I don't know if it's actually going to be helpful to me, because right now you're supposed to have a goal coach that you talk to once a week, and my goal coach sends me literally one message a week, which isn't really enough to count as support. You get put into a support group after you've been there for 2 weeks, but the first 2 weeks is free, and then after that you have to pay for it, and I'm not sure if I can tell whether it's going to be worth me to pay for it to get access to the support group thing or not. And it is very educational, and if I hadn't already gone on a healthier eating journey a number of times, I think I would find it more helpful. But I already know about caloric density, I already know about portion sizes and all of that. It's definitely not a program set up to keep you motivated to exercise. It's definitely more of a keeping you motivated to eat right, which is good. I kind of need help in both areas though. And I just don't know. I don't know if it's going to be worth what it would cost me to do the whole program, although it says that it can somehow get me down to my goal weight in 6 months, and I think that's a little ridiculous. I think I have my goal weight in there set as 140, and I'm 200 pounds right now, and I don't think it's reasonable to think that I could get to that safely and healthily in 6 months. But I don't know. I will let you know once I realize what it is I'm going to be doing or not with that new subscription. I was thinking about other things I haven't caught you guys up on because I've been not really communicative. And I had some health issues at the end of the year. After I ran that half marathon, I got really sick, and so I was really sick when I went into my cardiologist for what I was thinking was going to be the last time. I started going to a cardiologist in January because I started passing out while I was just sitting. So I would be sitting and knitting and pass out and it happened at work in January. I didn't 100% pass out, but I definitely like browned out. So I went to the hospital and they cleared me that I wasn't actively dying and told me to go to a cardiologist. So I went to a cardiologist, and I had to wear a heart monitor for a while. It was a whole thing. And he couldn't find anything wrong with me, really. Like, I have a heart murmur, which apparently I've had my entire life, and I didn't know until I went to the cardiologist, even though my mother knew about it. Thanks, Mom. And I have like a little bit of a erratic heartbeat, but apparently it's not in a way that I need a pacemaker or anything. So he basically told me, hey, just come back in 6 months, and if you're still okay, I'm going to release you. And that 6 months was literally right after that half marathon, right after I got back from it. So it was almost a week afterwards. And they did my EKG a number of times because my EKG results were completely different. And they thought that the person who had set me up for it had just done it incorrectly. No, my EKG had just completely changed. So I had to go in for a nuclear stress test while I was still incredibly sick, just coughing constantly. It was awful. Yeah, when you have a nuclear stress test, they inject you with a bunch of radioactive stuff, and then they put you in a machine to get a picture of your heart at rest, and then they run you on a treadmill, like a crazy run on a treadmill, to get you up to, I believe it's 90% of your peak heart rate, and then they run you through that machine again. But you have to lay still when you're running through the machine, and you're in there for a while. It takes about the same amount of time as an MRI, and I'm just coughing constantly. It was awful. I was trying to be still, but I couldn't be 100% still. And I wasn't expecting the stress test to be that big of a deal. Okay, so during all of the tests earlier in the year, I'd had a tilt table test, and the tilt table test, they do kind of the same way they do a stress test that doesn't involve a treadmill, where they just load you up with adrenaline and make your heart pound a lot, but then you're on a table and you're tilting back and forth. And I had the option of doing it medically and doing the adrenaline again, or running on the treadmill. And I opted to run on the treadmill because doing the adrenaline is terrifying, because your heart is just pounding in your throat and you can't really do anything about it. You just have to sit there at the mercy of it. And I felt really out of control, and I started crying. It was a whole thing, and I don't want to do that again. So I opted for the treadmill, which was okay, but my cardiovascular health is apparently better than they expected it to be, and certainly better than I expected it to be. It was really hard to get me up to that 90%. And at the end of it, we finally got there after they had to raise the speed and the incline up, so I was literally having to hold on to the treadmill, or I would have just like gotten thrown off of it because the incline was so steep. And I was somewhere between, because they told me not to run. They were like, walk as long as you possibly can. So I was somewhere between a really brisk walk and like a really slow run. Just like it, I'm sure it wasn't, but it felt like a fucking 45-degree angle. It was crazy. It was like it was almost like a stair level of incline. It was crazy. But my hands started getting sweaty because, for whatever reason, the part of the room that had the giant machine you have to lay really still in, fine. It was very cold. The part of the room with the fucking treadmill that you're going to have to run on, so hot. So I'm like palms of my hands were sweaty, and I was losing my grip on the treadmill, and I was like, guys, we got to stop this test. We have got to stop this test. So during the test, they have to inject you with more of the nuclear stuff, and it has to stay in your system while you're like active for a solid minute. So I was like, look, I'm losing my grip. You've got to inject me now. I don't care if we're not at 90% yet. I'm going to fall. And my cardiologist at that point ran in, and he was like, oh my God, are you okay? Are you going to die? Like, are you fine? I was like, no, I'm fine. I don't feel bad. My heart feels fine, but I'm going to fall, and I don't want I don't want the treadmill to grind off my face after I fall and I'm laying against it, right? But yeah, so that got done, and my results were fine. And my cardiologist said that if the results were not 100% perfect, I would have to go in for a heart cath, which I'm glad didn't happen because one of my coworkers just went in for that and had to have open heart surgery like the next week. So I was feeling some kind of way about that. But no, my apparently I have an incredibly healthy heart. It's the heart of a younger person than I am, which is nice. And I basically got released. He told me to come back in a year, but I'm not going to be living here in a year, so that wasn't something that I could do. So essentially released at this point. But that went on for like that plus the horrible coughing, flu, running sickness went on for about a month, and that derailed me pretty significantly. And yeah, so that's where I am health-wise. Other big news is I'm moving to Canada. It's, January I'm sitting at work, so I'm not going to look at my watch. It's January the 8th now. We're looking at moving to Canada in late March, early April. So I'm kind of stressed about that. And it's going to throw a wrench in a bunch of things. I already know that. So I'm trying to find a way that this whole move and all the packing and all of the stuff that's going to be associated with this move isn't going to completely derail my eating and exercise. I don't know how well I'm going to do, but I am going to fucking try because I'm tired. Tired of being fat. I think it's next week my office starts a new Biggest Loser competition, and I'll participate in it again. I did last year and I did not do very well, so hopefully this year I will do a little bit better. Me not doing very well at all during the Biggest Loser competition last year is one of the things that like really spurred me on to joining a gym and getting a little bit more serious about trying to be a little bit healthier, even though I haven't done a great job at actually doing that. Although I am still down. I was like 207 when I started. I'm 202 now. I had gotten under 200. I will get under 200 again. It's a lifelong thing, which is depressing. I don't want to think about the fact that I'm going to have to worry about this for the rest of my fucking life, but I am. I'm thinking I might sign up to do the hot chocolate run in February. It's like the first weekend of February. And if I do, I think I'm going to try to do the 15K instead of the 5K this time. I need to figure out if my running buddy's going to run it with me. I haven't done any New Year's resolutions this year, which is kind of weird. My past 2 years, I've had really running specific New Year's resolutions. Last year, it was to run a half marathon. The year before that, it was to run a 5K every month. I don't have a resolution this year. I don't know really what I'm doing, at least not health related. But I still have some time to think about it, I suppose. So I think you're pretty much caught up now. Yeah, I hope this was at least a little bit more interesting than the series of videos that happened over the holidays where I was literally just weighing in and doing nothing else.